This is here, May 9th, 19. Well, I don't even know, 19. I don't know what year it is. 2023, 19. I don't know where that came from. With the Aravosis Report, the daily show, we do hear about the latest news from Ukraine. As always, I've got a bunch of you guys from YouTube and TikTok and everywhere else. I'm going to get the TikTokers going here on my iPad. And we are going to wait 2 or 3 minutes for TikTok and YouTube and Twitch and everybody else to arrive. So take a minute and introduce yourselves and where you are from, if you would. There we go. All right. Hello, all. Woo. Busy day, or busy news day, I guess, if you're following other news, other non-Ukraine news, as I call it. Oh, man. Water. But yes, big Trump news today, and Ukraine news was a little mellow today, actually. We have a normal news day, so we've got ample time to do questions, which is good. Woo. Anyway, so yes, hello all. Hello TikTok. Alamogorda, maybe. Okay. TikTok still won't let me swipe right, but that's okay. There we go. Anyway, so yes, give a little shout out where you guys are. Another Malta. We got tons of Maltese here. Little Wolf, interesting. BC, Iowa. Anyway, so Tinder will though, John? I don't know what that means. UK. Yes, lots of UK as always. Texas. Fort Myers, Florida. That's always nice. Oh, I know I'm yawning at the beginning. Don't yawn. I didn't have a nap today, so hopefully I'm not going to yawn at you guys for a while. Thank you for the hat there. Who's that, Ernie? Thank you, Ernie, for that. Anyway, if anybody's just joining us and figuring out what we're doing, we always wait 2 or 3 minutes just for enough folks to arrive, because it sort of takes a while for the TikTokers and the YouTubers and Twitch and everybody else to sort of get their notifications. So that's what's going on. Facebook love. That's cute. Valentina. Oh, hi, Valentina on Facebook. Thank you for joining us. Anywho, I am going to yawn at you guys today. Riga, Latvia. That's interesting. Oh, I met a Latvian in my small town in Chicago area here this weekend, which was interesting. I don't know that I'd met a Latvian before. Very Eastern European accent, because I asked. I was like, okay, where are you from? So I had immigrated here a long time ago, but super strong Latvian accent. Oh, boy. All right. Well, welcome, guys. I am John Aravosis. Thank you for the flowers on the head, Louis. This is the Aravosis Report, my nightly show I do at 5 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Eastern Time U.S., 5 p.m. I don't even know what I'm talking about. 6 p.m. Eastern Time U.S. Yes, 5 p.m. Central. I'm still in Chicago for the month, so it always throws my timing a little off because I'm used to saying 6 p.m. Eastern because that is what I normally do. But now I'm in Chicago for the month. But so the way the show works is I normally don't yawn until the end of the show, but you never know when that's going to happen. I do the news for about the first half of the show, and then the second half of the show, I take your guys' questions. You can submit questions very easily over here on TikTok via the Q&A link that's in my profile. For the rest of you on YouTube and elsewhere, you can obviously just use the comment box at the bottom. I very much appreciate your gifts because I do this for free, and I've been doing it full time for the last year. So your gifts are quite literally paying my salary. So I appreciate that, guys. So definitely keep the gifts coming on TikTok and the gifts on YouTube, the super chat questions. And as a thank you, I will always try to do a shout out when I see the gifts pop up on the screen on TikTok. And the super chat questions, I will always get to those as the next question, unless I forget, and then Roshin and Ben will let me know. Let's get rolling here. So first bit of news, we are going to do our Eurovision watch party this weekend. We did this last year. This will be Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time U.S. Thank you for the corgi there. Who was that? Ben. 3 p.m. Eastern Time U.S., so 2 p.m. Central. And basically, it's the big thank you, Leanna. Very nice of you. It's the big European Song Contest. I mean, it's literally called the Eurovision Song Contest, but it's kind of fun. It's a big thing internationally, not as big of a thing here in the States, but growing. And last year, we all got together and watched it, and I basically just did a watch party. Just turned on all of our TVs and basically I'm not going to stream it because I don't quite know how that works legally. Thank you for that. Who was the llama there? Keith, thank you for that. But we all basically put on our own TVs and watch it together and hang out for about 4 hours. It was fun. We had a lot of fun last time. So join us. I'm going to try to concoct, I'm going to bring some prizes, I think, to sort of pick people at random to get the prizes. And maybe I'll even, thank you, Josh, for that, for the confetti. I may even put a special auction up for the day or something for you guys as well. Sort of a Eurovision auction just for those 4 hours that people can bid. And by the end of the day, by the end of our thing, it'll be happening. All right. Thank you for the hat, Simon. The other thing is we've got a new fundraiser up. So in addition to supporting myself, I also do fundraisers for Ukraine, like only for Ukraine. I do some that I share the money, our Discord, things like that, which we'll talk about later, where we do 50-50 to support my work and to support Ukraine. But we also raise money just for Ukraine. 100%, and that's what we're doing again today. Vlad contacted me. We were contacted by the National Guard group in Ukraine. They specifically, urgently could use some vehicles. They've asked us to see if we can crowdfund a pickup truck for them. Obviously, it would be used. We're not getting something new. The amount total that we need is $6,400. Vlad has already been able to raise $4,600 in Ukraine from Ukrainians, and we need another $1,800. It's the National Guard Unit A3107. Vlad always works with people he knows. He doesn't sort of just out of the blue, get a call from somebody and say, oh, you're Ukrainian military and you need a truck. It doesn't work that way. He's got the official letter. He knows the people he's dealing with, and we're going to help him out. So we've already got, honestly, 2/3 of the money. We need another $1,800. If you guys can help, I'd appreciate it. We'll be donating via Vlad's PayPal. You can find that via the link in my profiles. For you guys over here, just go to aravosis.com there at the bottom. And it's my link of links. The very top one will have Vlad's PayPal information. So just go to PayPal. It's not a link, obviously, it's just PayPal. And for you guys, you can go to my profile on TikTok, click the Linktree link, and the same thing. The first thing that will come up will be Vlad's PayPal information. If you can help, we'd appreciate it. 100% of the money is going to the troops. Now, just a little bit more background on these troops, and then we will talk. And then I'll start with the show. But these guys were just fighting in Bakhmut. Bakhmut, I might as well do my Bakhmut talk since we're talking substance too. Bakhmut is Ukrainian town in the east, okay? A city of like 60,000, 70,000 people. The Russians have been beating the hell out of it for 11 months. They've been losing. I mean, losing in the sense that the Russians now, after 11 months of going after this town of only 60,000 people, the Russians have been able to control somewhere between 75% and 93%, depending who you talk to. Putin, now actually, this is kind of big news for today. Putin had put out the order many times through the war. Putin has put out a timetable like, by this date, you better capture Bakhmut. Well, the last one Putin put out was for today. He said, by May 9th, the day of my big victory celebration, because in Russia, today is the day that the Russians celebrate the big victory over the Nazis in World War II. And it's a big deal for the Russians. It's a big deal for them anyway, but it's also a big deal because Putin, being a dictator, sort of rallies people around the flag and has been building up this day bigger and bigger every year. The whole patriotism and fighting Nazis, right? The whole Ukraine thing where he's accusing them of being Nazis. He accuses us of being Nazis too. So Putin had put out the word that he wanted Bakhmut captured by today because he wanted it to be the big announcement at the parade. Well, guess what, folks? Today is now over in Russia, and Bakhmut stands, and it is in the hands of the Ukrainians still. So really bad news for Putin, but the troops that we're helping, the reason I bring it up is the troops that we're helping have been fighting in Bakhmut. So they have been in the worst fighting of the war. I mean, it has been just a slugfest, deadly there. The Wagner folks have been working there. It's mostly been Wagner troops, the mercenary groups. We're going to talk about them in a minute too, because that whole thing went sour again, which is great news as far as Wagner Group's working relationship with the Russian military. Multiple things here. Thank you, Boat Drinks, for the hat. Thank you, Kanowski, for the confetti. So those are the troops we're helping. They were fighting in Bakhmut. Basically, their cars got destroyed in Bakhmut by the Russians, and they urgently needed another pickup truck to do lots of military stuff. As Vlad said, we can't talk about where they're going next. We can't talk about when they're going, but suffice it to say, they have a new mission. They have a new assignment that we can't tell you about. You can guess yourselves what they might be up to. But they need a car. So if you guys can help, like I said, go to my profile on TikTok, click the Linktree link. First thing is Vlad's PayPal. The rest of you can use aravosis.com at the bottom of the screen. And as I said, we've been working with Vlad for a year now. We've raised almost $100,000 now for Ukrainian, mostly humanitarian, but some of this military stuff as well. And all the money goes to the Ukrainians. We don't touch a dime. Okay. So, Michaela, oh my God, Michaela, you live. I see people saying Michaela's here. Yay! On YouTube. One of our old friends who's, I haven't seen her in a while, but she's on YouTube today with us. Yay! Glad to hear it. So anyway, I got a few we're about to start now. So I got a few gifts here on YouTube. Leanne with a wonderful super sticker. Susan, who just got out of the hospital, saying, I'm on my way home from the hospital. I stopped by Moscow as Putin invited me to the celebration. Thank you, Susan, for that. And Carlos wanted to let us know that there was a Russian prisoner interview. He described every reversal as a gesture of goodwill. He was a real stonehead. Yeah, one of the things the Russians have tried to claim throughout the entire war is, because remember now, Russia controlled twice as much land in Ukraine as they do now. When the war started, Russia invaded, they got all of this. They were down to here, right north of Kyiv, the capital. They were coming around here too, Kharkiv. They were also this part of Kharkiv. They got kicked out of all of this. All of this, the Russians got kicked out, and now they still control this. 50% of the territory the Russians controlled, they've been kicked out of. The Ukrainians have got it back. So the Russians, for many of those reversals, basically claimed it was a goodwill gesture. They just decided to, in the middle of a genocide, they thought they would do something nice for the Ukrainians and remove themselves. Well, the Ukrainians kicked their butts, obviously. I mean, that's what happened here. So let's jump in with the news. So that's our truck fundraiser. So please do help out if you can. Only $1,800 we need to help the Ukrainian soldiers get a new truck. So please do help out with the link in my profile. Thank you for the gift there for the boxing robe. Was it Achilles? Thank you. All right, let's jump in with the news. So really interesting news came up last night. Washington Post reported on it today too, that the Brits, the British government, is looking into, actually preparing is the word being used, not even looking into, are preparing. Thank you, Big King Fun. I can't read all the comments because it's very small on TikTok, because TikTok did a really horrific change where we used to be able to scroll on TikTok and get the comments really big. TikTok decided it no longer likes people over the age of 30, so you can no longer scroll. So sometimes I can't see everything you guys are writing, so I apologize. But I did see the $50, so thank you for that. That was very nice of you. So the report last night is, and honestly, it's a little confusing. I'm not even going to try to explain it because it confuses me. But basically, the Brits put out a notice that is the first step towards providing longer range missiles to Ukraine that the U.S. has so far refused to give Ukraine, which is really interesting. The article, this was in Stars and Stripes, which is a U.S. military publication, independent, but U.S. military. And today it was in the Washington Post. They interviewed sort of British British diplomats and things, not by name, but it was made clear that this is happening. Now, let's see. It's still got to happen. Like, let's not count our chickens before they hatch, or whatever the expression is, right? But the British politicians would have downplayed this if it were totally false. If it was, no, we're not getting ready to give Ukraine long-range missiles, they would have said that to the Post. They would have said, off the record, British politicians say this is never happening, right? It looks like it's happening. Now, the issue here is Ukraine for a while now has wanted longer range missiles. The missiles we currently give Ukraine can go maybe 60 miles. That's about 100 kilometers, and that's it. We've approved giving them longer range. What was it? The gravity bombs. I'm forgetting my. It's got like 5 names. The gravity bomb. Anyway, these weapons that can go maybe 100 miles, right? So it's almost twice the distance, which is great. They've not arrived yet. They're having to they're GLDBMs. No, they're like GLDBM, something like that. You guys know what I'm talking about. GLDBM, something like that. It's 5 initials like that. Some of you military folks will figure it out for me. But in any case, thank you, by the way, for the llamas there. Who was that? Oh, we got the llamas from Panya Verka. Thank you, Privyet or Spasiba. I only know how to, or Jakyu, excuse me. Jakyu, Panya Verka. Right. I do know GLSDB. There you go. Was it ground launched? Oh, tell me what GLDSB was. I used to know. In any case, bottom line is the U.S. has been refusing to give Ukraine anything that goes really farther. Thank you, Ellie. And the Ukrainians would like ATACMS. You'll hear about ATACMS, which I love the name ATACM. It's ATACMS. Thank you, Timothy, for the hat, which is kind of a cute acronym, obviously, because it's attack. But the U.S. has been refusing. Now, thank you, Donette. The U.S. has been claiming that. Thank you, Marcy, for that. The U.S. has been claiming that. Well, what was the fake reason we're giving? Oh, the fake reason we're giving is we're afraid Ukraine's going to use these missiles to attack Russia in Russian territory, and we don't want that to happen, which is total bull. What the reason we're doing it, ground launch small diameter bomb. There you go. Thank you, Praxis. The reason we're actually not giving these to Ukraine is we don't want to make Vladimir Putin angry. And Putin would get angry if Ukraine got these weapons because they go significantly farther than the current weapons. And what does that mean? That means Ukraine could basically cause all sorts of havoc with the Russian occupation. Now, I'd written down a few little notes just so I get this right. It would allow Ukrainian forces to target Russian command centers, supply lines, ammunition, and fuel depots deep inside Russian-controlled territory. Crimea and Russian-held territory in eastern Ukraine would basically be put on the map if they did this. Now, let me show you. I don't have the exact measurements here, but you've got Russia controlling, what I mean is the miles. I don't really know the miles in Ukraine, but you've got Russia controlling this, okay? Right up to the south side of the river here. So Russia controls the south side of the river. Ukraine is north, east, and west, they say, but it's easier for us because it's up and down to think north and south. Russia controls this. Ukraine absolutely wants to get all of it back. They really want to get back Crimea. That's the jewel in the crown they want to get back. But they also want to get back the rest of this. If eventually, well, actually, to take any of this, let's kind of put this stuff out of the way because you get back further here and they get closer to Russia because Russia's over here. So let's kind of put that aside for a minute. In terms of taking this territory is on the sea. So what Russia's been doing is they've been moving back their supplies, their weapon supplies, artillery supplies, housing for their troops, command centers, like basically places they've got their generals and their commanders making plans. They've been moving all of it as far away as they can from the Ukrainians because they don't want the Ukrainians blowing them up, period. Well, what they've done, therefore, they know the Ukrainian rockets can go 60 miles. So they've been making sure that all of their depots for their weapons, their fuel, are more than 60 miles away from the front. Right? So you've got the front meaning where the Ukrainians and the Russian troops touch, where they meet. So the front is, let me get here, I'll get my glasses here because I'm trying to find something like a finer point. So the front goes more or less like this, more or less. I'm close, okay? Like this. So the Ukrainian troops are here, they're here, they're here, they're here. Well, in principle, they can only go down to here maybe with their rockets. I'm giving you an estimate, okay? If they can get these longer range rockets, then even from up here, they can get all of this. Even from up here, they can get all of this. That means all of the weapons that are stored all along here can be blown up by the Ukrainians. Huge deal. Now, what happens when the Ukrainians start to take over more of Kherson, for example, down here? Well, the Ukrainians get down here, and now what happens? Instead of their weapons only reaching down here, now their weapons reach down here. So now they're able to blow up and attack Russian troops much more in the rest of Crimea. Bottom line, the farther the Ukrainian weapons can go, the more Russian supplies they can hit, the more Russian soldiers they can hit, the more Russian fuel. And it means it's going to be easier for the Ukrainians to then attack that area going forward because the Russians will have fewer weapons and less fuel. So anyway, big deal. Like I said, this is being interpreted as it's happening. It's not clear when it's going to happen, but that it's happening. That the Brits are going to give these longer range 200-mile or 300-kilometer cruise missiles. They're called the belief is, because of the distance that they were talking about, the belief is the Brits are going to send the Storm Shadow cruise missile. That's their weapon that can go this distance to Ukraine sometime. It better be soon because we're still waiting for the counteroffensive. Anyway. Big deal. Now, actually, one final point I wanted to make. I'm very intrigued that the U.S. doesn't have a problem with this. Now, obviously, Britain can do what it wants, but we're a big coalition. right? And you don't want to piss off the French, you don't want to piss off the Americans, you don't want to piss off the Germans. I mean, you were trying to hold it's like the European Union in a way, where they're always trying to negotiate among the members to keep everybody happy. Well, we want to keep everybody happy as part of this coalition, right? We don't want a member giving away weapons to Ukraine that nobody else would ever give, because then the coalition members could eventually say, you know what, we're out of here. We're not giving Ukraine nuclear weapons, or we're not giving Ukraine whatever, right? So it's thank you, Scott, for the hat there. So it's interesting to me that this is happening, and so far the U.S. doesn't seem to be putting the brakes on it. And let's see what happens. Sorry, my hair today's exploding. Let's see what happens. But so far the U.S. was quoted in the article going, "The British can do whatever they want." So it was like, okay, good. Victory Day. So thank you, Dana, for the gift there. First gift, it said. Thank you. Today is Victory Day in Moscow. So it's the day the Russians celebrate. Thank you. That's Panya Verka. I'm going to say Panya Verka. I hope that's correct. I've never seen that name before. That's very interesting. Thank you. Can I call you Panya? Do people say Panya as a short for your name? I don't know. Anyway, thank you for that. The Victory Day. So May 9th is the day that the Russians celebrate, their victory over the Nazis in World War II. The Russians like to think that they're the only people who actually won World War II. They did. Not the Russians, the Soviets, mind you. The Russians like to think it's them, the Soviets. The Soviets lost 27 million people in World War II. Now, the Soviets include Ukraine. Ukraine actually was, Russia was the largest portion, then Ukraine, and then you get to the other Soviet republics. But the Russians sort of leave out the fact that they were actually allies of the Nazis for 2 years. They had already decided with the Nazis to divvy up Europe. Thank you, Kanowski. And they told the Nazis, go ahead and attack Western Europe. We're going to take the East and we'll leave you alone. Well, it's only because the Nazis then broke the deal and attacked Russia that the Russians ended up going to war with the Nazis. Thank you, Escapin, for that. So so they talk about how heroic they were taking on the Nazis. They were double-crossed by their friends, the Nazis. That's why the Russians went to war with the Nazis. The Nazis were stupid enough to double-cross their friends, the Russians. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing, and the Russians said it again today, I think Putin said in his speech, we liberated Europe. They didn't liberate Europe. They literally took half of Europe hostage. When the Soviet Union ended World War II and helped us, we all helped each other, mind you. Russia would not have been able to defeat, Soviet Union, I should say, would not have been able to defeat the Nazis had the U.S. not provided a ton of weapons, a ton of aircrafts and tanks and everything else to the Russians. But they provided a lot of lives because their friends, the Nazis, double-crossed them. Fair enough. But what bothers me about this really is the Russians then turned around after they helped work with us to defeat the Nazis. They turned around and literally kidnapped half of Europe and took it hostage. They cut Germany in half. They took all the Eastern European countries. Back then, Czechoslovakia was one country, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, going east, Poland, and took these countries and ate them up, basically. I mean, they turned them into communist dictatorships. They weren't just, when we say they were, calling them Russia's orbit of control is being nice. Like Western Europe was our orbit, so to speak, but we weren't in control of Western Europe. Russia literally was in control of these countries. Two of the countries, Czechoslovakia and Hungary, had uprisings. What was it, 56 and I'm going to say 69. Was it, or 60? I'm forgetting, 68? Help me out, guys. 56 was Hungary. Czechoslovakia, 68. When was the uprising? The Soviets came in and killed these people because these people had basically uprisings for, basically to have democratic rule. I mean, horrific what they did. 68, it was 68. Yeah, horrific what they did. Brutal communist dictatorships. I was reading the other day because some sort of younger folks on the left were trying to rehabilitate East Germany. So East Germany is the chunk of Germany that the Russians stole and decided to make its own independent communist country. The East German secret police, the Stasi. I won't go too long on this, but I think it's interesting from a historical perspective, and it also shows you who the Russians really are. The East German secret police, the Stasi, had files on 1/3 of the population. I believe it was 3 million people. 2 to 3 million people they had files on, secret files, so they could know who these people were. Okay, thank you, Brian, more than 1/3 of their population they were spying on. Anyway, you get it. This is what the Soviet Union did, what Russia did to these countries. So it bothers me because I lived during that era. I lived in America, but I lived during that era. I saw what they did. I actually went and visited East Germany right around the time the wall was falling. Very sad place. Visited the Soviet Union. That was even sadder in the 1980s. Horrific. Anyway, they pissed me off. So anyway, Victory Day. So today was the day, the big day for Putin to celebrate victory over the Nazis. Yay! It was a total bust. Typically, they've got like 130 vehicles. This is the day where the Russians, remember they go through Red Square, the big square in Moscow that has like Lenin's dead body stuffed. There's literally a stuffed body of a mummy of Lenin, or they claim he's real. Nobody knows if he's real or not. Creepy. I've been there. Very creepy. But a stuffed body of like their leader was there. And they have all these missiles come by and tanks and everything, and all the troops kind of do the looking up thing with their tank. Well, normally they've got 133 vehicles. Today they had 50. It took 5 minutes for the vehicles to drive by. Normally, I mean, it's like a long procession of kind of cool military stuff, even ICBMs, these nuclear missiles. 50 instead. Only took 5 minutes. They canceled the air parade. Usually there's a parade of planes flying over, like a really cool, right? All the top Russian jets. Canceled it. They canceled the civilian part. Usually they go by and all the civilians in Moscow are able to watch the parade. They wouldn't let them anywhere near it because they were afraid. They canceled the, what was it called? The Immortal Regiment. The Immortal Regiment was canceled. That's the part of the parade where everyone holds up a sign showing a picture of their dead loved one they lost in any war, World War II, World War I, whatever. They were afraid too many Russians were going to hold up pictures of their relatives who died in Ukraine. And they didn't want the symbolism of all of these Russians holding these signs up or these pictures up of dead loved ones from Ukraine. And all of a sudden, everyone in the country figuring out just how many had died, just how many people had been impacted, right? So that got banned. What else? This is good too. In the entire parade, there was one tank. The tank was from World War II. And it wasn't even built in Russia. It wasn't even a Russian tank. Where do you think the tank was built? Kharkiv, Ukraine. Made one freaking tank, and it was a Ukrainian tank. Putin gave a victory speech that was obnoxious and whiny as usual. He complained about Russophobia. Russophobia is this word the Russians like to use. Hang on a sec. It's based on the word homophobia, meaning, you're anti-gay or anti-trans or anti-whatever. And the Russians like to use it for anybody who criticizes Russia is Russophobic. Well, Putin uses it, and I don't know who they think they're appealing to with this because it sounds just silly. At least in English, it sounds silly to say Russophobic, like, oh, please, you're so oppressed. You're committing genocide in Ukraine, but you're so oppressed because nobody likes that you're committing genocide. Oh, we're sorry. So he's Russophobic. He claimed that that we're all Nazis, of course. We're all Nazis. The world is made up of Nazis. They're all attacking poor Russia, and basically linked it to World War II and said, just like in World War II, the Nazis are attacking us again. And it's like, okay, sure, right. We're all Nazis. For example, he said, a real war has once again been unleashed against our motherland. The main point of the speech was to say that all of us started the war. We actually declared war on Russia. And that's how the war started, not that Putin himself actually invaded Ukraine, which he did. Russophobia. Igor Girkin. This was kind of a good news, too. This is good from the sort of psychological aspect. Igor Girkin, not a nice man, former Russian commander, former FSB, which is the follow-on to the KGB, war criminal. He was involved, found guilty recently, but in absentia, for shooting down, remember the is it 17? I forget which one, but that Malaysian airliner that was flying over Ukraine back in 2014 or so, and the Russian allies shot it down. Well, it wasn't just the Russian allies. Girkin himself did it, who was former Russian military. So he's been sentenced for a war crime for that. But Girkin today went off on a tirade about how basically the war is lost and how Russia faces, this was the quote, how Russia faces imminent military defeat, and how he's therefore now we need to all focus on how to hold our country together because he's afraid there might be a civil war. The reason this is a big deal is, get out of here. I have to ask about this. Somebody's saying Santos was indicted. Normally I won't sort of stop for something somebody just throws on the screen, but I have to ask, if you're not telling the truth, I'm going to be very upset. Was Santos actually indicted? This is that Republican congressman, the one who's the liar from New York who lies about everything. It's on the news? Oh, God. No one knows why yet. Oh, my God. Okay, well, we're not going to talk about that today. I mean, I would hope he's an issue that we can all rally around, right? Democrat or Republican, let's face it. He's kind of a goof, okay? He's one of those that I think we could all agree, we could all have a good chuckle over him. Oh, my God, that's insane. Okay, we'll talk about that later. So what is important about Gherkin has a huge audience. He writes and talks and does this stuff. Oh, hello. Thank you for the party bus. I've not seen this before. Oh, that's crazy. Oh, that's absolutely crazy. Who did that? Sorry, who got the party? Oh, Cameo. Thank you for that. I can also tell that had to be very generous. You can always tell when the gifts linger a little bit on the screen. Thank you for that. Wow, that was very generous of you. I appreciate that. Gherkin has 800,000 followers on is it Telegram? I think it's on Telegram, which is sort of a Russian social media app. Big deal. I mean, 800,000. I've got 500,000 on TikTok. Like, that's a good number. Like, I'm able to reach a lot of people. 800,000 in a country of Russia, mind you, Russia's half the size of the United States, less than half the size. That'd be like having 1.6 million or 2 million here, which is huge. So Gherkin, him telling his people, look, we've lost this war. It's over. We're going to lose this. That's a big deal. That's a very big deal. Real quick, now I'll do the pitch for me. I have I actually have a Patreon page, but we're trying not to use them too much anymore because they've kind of been evil to those of us creating news about Ukraine. So I'm trying to switch folks over to my Discord. If you would go, our Discord community is a lot of fun. We basically sit and talk about the news all day long. A lot of Ukraine, but other stuff too. You can find the link in my profile on TikTok. Click the Linktree link in my profile. And one of the things that comes up is the Discord. For you guys, it's at the bottom of the screen. Either aravosis.com, we'll get to the main links, or the Discord link, the tiny URL. But it's I'm trying to see if we can get folks to sign up over there. Basically, do a monthly confirmation if you can't, monthly contribution if you can. Oops, sorry, we'll do a quick gift. I think this is good. This feels like a flower lady gift. I shouldn't say that though. Oh, it's not Nancy. Thank you for the meteor shower. So I shouldn't try to guess who's doing the gifts. Thank you for that, Nancy. Because I'm like guilting other people into giving gifts. I didn't mean to do that. But the Discord, as I said, it's a great place for us we hang out. We have auctions. Half the money from the auction goes to Ukraine. Half the money supports my work because I am doing this for free full time. We do Saturday morning hangout, although we're probably going to skip the hangout this weekend. Thank you, Dawn, because we're doing the Eurovision hangout, and the Eurovision hangout's going to go for 4 to 5 hours. So I'm probably not doing my Saturday morning normal stuff. But also we've got real cool auction stuff. I've shown you guys before. I won't waste a lot of time with this, but we auction off a lot of cool stuff from Ukraine. One of my favorites is this fridge magnet. It's a fridge magnet that shows a tractor pulling a tank, Ukrainian tractor, farmer pulling the Russian tank with a Z on it. And it says, "Good evening, we are from Ukraine," which I love this. I think it's really cute. And then my other favorite is the Azovstal bracelet, which is made from the steel at the Azovstal plant. You can see the Ukrainian trident on it. It says from Azovstal. Oops, where's the... There you go. You can see the trident there. But the Ukrainian government had these made to honor the Ukrainian troops, the 2,000 men and women who fought the 14,000 Russians for 2 months. We've got a lot of that cool stuff for auction on the Discord. Go check it out, discord.aravosis.com, or you can find the link in my profile, the link at the bottom of the screen. And if you would consider, maybe sign up. Thank you, Kanalsi. I just try to get 2 people a day to sign up as contributors. If you can, I'd appreciate it. If it's way too confusing, maybe you can check out my Patreon, my Venmo, or my Cash App, which again, you can find in my profile link, or you guys can find it at aravosis.com. All right, let me keep going. Prigozhin. So Prigozhin is pissed again. It's funny. It's not a very long news day, although it's already going long here. Prigozhin is out of his mind. This is great. Hang on. So Yevgeny Prigozhin is the Russian oligarch who billionaire. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait a minute. I was going to see really quick. What was that? Octavio. I'm sorry. Wait, Octavio first. Roman and family loves your show. Keep spreading the truth. Thank you, Roman. I appreciate that. Aw. Octavio or Octavia? Octavio Machado. Or it could be Octavio Machado, depending if you're Brazilian. But thank you for that. I appreciate that. So Prigozhin, oh my God, this is great. Prigozhin is the Russian billionaire runs the Wagner Group. The Wagner Group is the mercenary group that has been basically Russian soldiers for hire. They have been working in Africa, Middle East, but also now have been fighting in Ukraine. They've been doing most of the fighting in Bakhmut, which is the city in the east I was telling you guys about. Bakhmut over here, where all the fighting's been going on for the last 11 months, and I would say really big fighting in the last few months. This is where the soldiers were fighting the Ukrainian soldiers, who we've got the fundraiser up to get them a new pickup truck. They were fighting in Bakhmut. That's where their pickup was destroyed. So Bakhmut, big deal fighting. Prigozhin has been at odds with the Ministry of Defense in Russia for a while now because he's got a mercenary group. He makes money off of it. It's part of his business model to criticize the Russian Ministry of Defense and to say Russian troops suck. My troops, the private troops, are the really good guys. You want to hire them, right? Makes sense. But he's been too critical. So he was way critical of the Ministry of Defense, the Minister of Defense, what the U.S. would call the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I think it's called the chief of the general staff. That's what the Russians call it. Gerasimov, very critical of them and implicitly very critical of Putin, because you're talking about a dictatorship here. You can't, and frankly, even in America, democracy, if you're saying the Pentagon is executing a poor war, like doing a really crappy job, of course, you're also talking about the president, because the president is the one who in the end signs off on it. And the president's the one who's not shaking heads or cracking heads if there's a problem, especially in a dictatorship like Russia. Putin's in control of everything. So criticizing the top military leaders criticizes Putin. In any case, they start to sort of dick back with him a couple months ago, start to basically cut off ammunition for the Wagner Group, at least according to Prigozhin. A couple months ago, he said they were cutting off like 80% of his ammunition for his men. His men were dying. Finally, last week, Prigozhin does this video, and it is in front of long streams of dead bodies. And it's I'd say at least 3 dozen dead bodies on the ground, all laid out, men dead, clearly dead, not a pretty scene. And he's screaming at the camera for 5 minutes. And he's saying, Gerasimov, the chief of the top general in the military, Shoigu, the minister of defense, you killed these men. And he's going, put the camera on their faces, show the dead bodies. You killed these men. You're not giving them weapons. You're not giving them ammunition. And the next day he says, that's it. I'm pulling out my men. By May 10th, we're leaving, which will be tomorrow. We're leaving. We're pulling out of Bakhmut because they've been the main fighters in Bakhmut. You are killing these men. You killed all of these men today. Great. Whether it's true or not, it's great, because this was, I'm just going to throw that up, Joanna, so everybody else can see it. It was great because the Russian troops think it's true, meaning that the military isn't helping sufficiently, because they think that Prigozhin's telling the truth, is what I mean. And the Russian people think he's telling the truth. We got to see this video. It's a pretty graphic video. The Russian people and the Russian military got to see the video too. And they got to see right before this big Ukrainian counteroffensive. They're getting ready for the Ukrainians to attack. Now, this is probably Flower Lady, I'm guessing. Oh, hang on, just check it. Yep, there we go. Thank you, Flower Lady. I figured they had to be you. Thank you for that. Right before the big Ukrainian counteroffensive, they don't need to be hearing the government hates you, the Russian government hates you, they don't care about you, and they're willing to let you die. Okay? That's what he's saying. So what happens 2 days ago? Prigozhin says, oh my God, they've caved. The government caved. They're going to give us our weapons. Yay! And everyone's going, oh, give me a break. Like, you were never going to leave anyway. I think yesterday he starts to make some noise. Today, Prigozhin is now pissed again. He's saying that Gerasimov came in. Gerasimov is the top general of the Russian military. Gerasimov came in. They had promised him all of these weapons. Gerasimov cut the amount by 90%. So basically, one example was Prigozhin had said we needed 7,200 units of some kind of ammunition. And initially, he was told they would get it. Now he's getting 750 instead of 7,200 of that amount of ammunition. So they basically cut 90% of what they promised. The quote from him was, we were simply blatantly lied to. It is fabulous. He's furious. He's threatening to leave again. Oh, the other thing, which is great. But again, the reason I'm laughing and it's great is because this is mayhem. You want this kind of disorder happening on the other side. You want the guys you're fighting to be falling apart at the seams, right? when they're having these kind of fights, they're not having a cohesive military. And again, the message being sent to the Russian troops is they don't care about you. Your leaders are willing to kill you. And by the way, you will be killed. All these guys got killed. You're going to be killed too when you go to war because nobody cares about you. That's bad. I mean, that's, it's just, that's not a great morale booster going into battle. So what else did I have here? He said the other thing he said was the military put out an order that he saw saying that if any of the Wagner Group troops try to leave Bakhmut, they will be charged with treason for basically abandoning their country. He was pissed about that. Now, the best part, he goes, wait, where's the line on that? I don't know if I have the actual quote from him. Basically, he responded to the accusation of treason, and he goes, if we don't get the weapons, we're leaving. Now, one more little data point real quick about this. He also threw in that one of the other, today, Tuesday, one of the units of the Ministry of Defense fled from one of our flanks, abandoning their positions. They all fled and left a front nearly 2 kilometers, a mile and a half wide and 500 meters deep, 1,500 feet deep. So basically, he's also reporting publicly, which is great, that a unit of the Russian military freaked out and just ran from Bakhmut and just abandoned the whole thing and left him wide open in terms of his units. Again, great news, great little piece of intelligence. And my point here is, even if he's lying, because I don't know if you can trust Prigozhin. I don't know. He could be lying. He could be, right? He and Putin could have concocted this or something crazy. Here's the problem. It could be a feint. It could be a fake, right? He could be tricking us. The problem is he's also tricking the Russian people and he's tricking the Russian military. All the soldiers watching this don't know it's a fake. The people back home in Russia don't know it's a fake. They're watching this news and going, our troops are dying. And Prigozhin's saying they're not giving them the weapons they need. And, little Jimmy, who's going to war next week, is going to get killed. Not good for morale. Russia's preparing to evacuate more than 3,000 staff members from the Zaporizhia nuclear plant. Zaporizhia, the plant, I should say. So the region of Zaporizhia is here. Very key region. As far as I would say many people think this may be the key that Ukraine goes after, not for the entire war, because Ukraine wants all of this back, but in terms of getting back Crimea, they need to get Zaporizhia, because then it'll cut the 2 Russian-held territories in half. Sort of where you go right here, they're no longer connected, supplies can't go back and forth, etc. So the Zaporizhia nuclear plant, which we keep hearing about, is at the south of the river. Remember, the Russians control everything south of the river up to about here. And it is at the northernmost point south of the river. So right about here, the top of my finger, is where the Zaporizhia nuclear plant is. It is a Ukrainian nuclear plant, provides maybe 20 or 30% of the energy to Ukraine. It is the largest nuclear plant in Europe. And the concern has been, a lot of Russian bombing and stuff near the plant, but also the Russians have put weapons on top of the plant and now reportedly have weapons and possibly even bombs and things inside the plant. It's a mess. Well, the Russians are now preparing to evacuate more than 3,000 staff from the plant. Keep in mind that the Russians control the plant. It's a Ukrainian plant, but it's area controlled by the Russians. So the fact that, thank you, Bill. Sorry, Bill asked for the map again with a super chat question. Happy to oblige. There's your map, Bill. Keep in mind that part of this is probably psychological warfare. I think the Russians are removing the staff if they're going to, because they're trying to freak people out. They're trying to make people think, thank you, Soren, for the super sticker. They're trying to make people think that they are getting ready to blow the plant or something horrible is going to happen there. So they're removing all the staff and pop. I talked about this yesterday. I think it's a bluff. I think Russia needs to convince us as much as possible that they're going to do horrible things with nukes, whether it's nuclear plants or nuclear weapons or whatever. In the end, I think a lot of it is a bluff. And one of the ways you bluff, thank you, Chezek, is like this. You remove the staff so we all go, oh my God, what are they doing, when they're really not doing anything. Final point here. Russia couldn't care less about the Ukrainian staff working at the nuclear plant. They couldn't care. Russia would probably be, not probably, I'm being nice. Russia would be happy to watch the Ukrainian staff at the nuclear plant incinerate with the rest of the plant, right? They wouldn't have a problem with that. They're removing them not for their safety. They're removing them because they they think they get some kind of propaganda angle out of it. A video journalist working for Agence France Presse, which is the French press agency, AFP, Armand Soldin, 32 years old, was killed by rocket fire near the town of Chaziv Yar in eastern Ukraine. That story was getting a lot of play today because a lot of journalists knew him and said he was a really nice guy. Just wanted to mention that. With all of Russia's nuclear saber rattling, the U.S. today said they see no change in Russia's nuclear posture. Quote, this is from a spokesperson for the National Security Council at the White House. We don't have any indications of a change to Russia's strategic force posture and continue to monitor the situation. We've seen nothing to warrant a change in our strategic force posture at this time. So what they're saying is, as much as Russia keeps talking about, oh my God, nuclear war, we're going to move our nuclear weapons, we're going to, on the ground, they're not changing anything. And that's the kind of thing they would need to do if, in fact, they were getting ready to use nukes and all that kind of stuff. They actually would start to move the nukes around, and they're not. So once again, let's say it all together, they're bluffing. Final story, I just wanted to mention this because, this is Secretary Blinken, who's our Secretary of State, smart man, and he's Secretary of State, so he's particularly careful with his words. I want you to listen to what he said. He was saying with regards to the Ukrainian counteroffensive, the big, we're waiting for the Ukrainians for their big pushback against Russia, and saying that they've got enough weapons. And he says, they have in place what they need to continue to be successful in regaining territory that was seized by force by Russia over the last 14 months, he says. Let me read that again. The Ukrainians have in place what they need to continue to be successful in regaining territory that was seized by force by Russia over the last 14 months. Over the last 14 months, Russia took this. 2014, they took this. So what Blinken said was, we've given Ukraine enough weapons to take back this land, but not this land. That's what he just said. And that's what I've been talking. By the way, actually, yesterday, I think I even said that explicitly, that I think the U.S. would be very happy for Russia to Ukraine to perhaps get this land back, but not this, because they're afraid of angering Vladimir Putin. Anyway, I will leave it at that. We will do questions now. Quick reminder, we have a store as well, store.aravosis.com. You can find our store. Thank you for the fireworks there. Was that Cheryl? Thank you. You can find my store in the link. All this stuff is in the link on my TikTok. So go to the Linktree link in my TikTok profile, click it. The store will be there. You guys can find it at aravosis.com. Lots of very cool Ukrainian themed stuff there. And all the Ukrainian themed stuff there, 50% of the proceeds will go to Ukraine. Right now, we've been doing it more for military fundraising. Like I said, this truck and other kind of stuff, just like the Discord auction, 50% goes to the military. And remember, we do have that Discord, not the Discord auction. We are doing an auction for Ukrainian troops to get them a pickup truck. They need a pickup truck. These are troops with the National Guard unit that we've been in touch with, specifically have asked us for help. Their vehicles were destroyed in Bakhmut. They've been fighting in Bakhmut for the last several months. You guys know, as I was just telling you, that's the biggest fighting of the war. That's where Prigozhin's Wagner group is fighting the mercenaries that have been just like, it's been horrific. They need a new vehicle. They've asked us for help. We've already raised $600. We need another $1,800. If you can help, we'd really appreciate it. 100% of the money is going to them. I'm not taking a dime. Vlad's not taking a dime. You can PayPal the money directly to Vlad's PayPal. My friend Vlad in Ukraine, who he kind of comes on my show every Saturday. We have Vlad, but you guys have gotten to know him. Very trustworthy. Go to my profile link on TikTok, and the very first thing that comes up once you click it will give you Vlad's PayPal. So copy that, enter your PayPal, and use it. Same thing for you guys there with aravosis.com. So if you can help, I'd appreciate it. It's only $1,800. I think we can do this. I like these fundraisers, frankly, because they're nice ways to kind of do something very concrete that's small enough that we can afford it. Because look, we're not raising $100,000. I mean, we did raise $100,000, but that's over a year. We're not somebody who raises $100,000 during one show. But if we can raise $1,800 and help out the Ukrainian troops getting ready to fight in the next few weeks, that'd be kind of cool. So thank you for that. All right, let's pull up your questions. So questions for you guys on TikTok, throw them into the super chat. I'm not super chat. I'm sorry. Throw them into the Q&A link in my profile. For you guys, you can use the super chat function or just the regular at the bottom. Brave Cobra is saying, do you expect a Russian retreat tomorrow or later this week at Bakhmut? I mean, the thing is, God, my hair is exploding today. I'm going to stop worrying about my hair. The thing is, the Russians have invested so much in Bakhmut and nobody knows why. I mean, really, nobody knows why. It's just not that important for them to get it. It's possible Prigozhin wants the salt mines that are there for his own money. That would make a lot of sense because of corruption, basically. But as far as why Russia's going after it, it doesn't help Russia to go from Bakhmut to move to, to the other, like, is it Kremina? I think that's the close. No, Kramatorsk. Yeah. To go like to Kramatorsk from there, you wouldn't really do it from Bakhmut, the experts were saying. So it doesn't really help them, the Russians, move on to where they're going next. Nonetheless, the Russians have sunk, I mean, it's been 11 months. They've sunk so much and lost so many men going after Bakhmut. I mean, they could have lost 30,000 troops going after Bakhmut alone, that it's not clear how they're going to back down. I mean, they can't save face now, right? I mean, remember, Putin gave them the ultimatum again saying, you better get Bakhmut by today. And they didn't do it. So in the end, it would be smart for them to just back out. Having said that, I don't know what's going on the ground. I don't know if we're at the point now. Thank you, Kay. I don't know if we're at the point now where maybe it's less of a bad ratio for the Russians fighting in Bakhmut. I mean, up until now, oh, thank you, Michael. Sorry, Michael just gave me a gift on PayPal. That was very sweet of you. Thank you, Michael. So I saw my phone go off and I was like, what is that? I don't know. They could. I mean, if they get smart, they could just pull out of Bakhmut. I don't know. Right? I just don't know. Oh, thank you, Jared from Ireland. Appreciate that. Anyway, what else we got here, guys? More questions. And remember, we got Eurovision on Saturday. We got our Eurovision watch party we're doing. We're going to hang out. I'm going to try to get some auction items as well. I may put up like an auction item for that afternoon, I think, like just for those 4 hours or something. And maybe some things we'll give away during the show too. I don't know. I'll have to see. Anyone win the drone contest at Red Square? I don't know that. Good question. I don't know that we ever found out. I don't know whether anything ever happened. Well, here's the thing. There was a contest by a Ukrainian, tech guy who offered a little over $500,000 to anyone who could land the first drone on Red Square in Moscow today, on this May 9th day, the big celebration World War II victory they do. Because of the weird story last week with the 2 drones that, attacked or whatever they did in Red Square, I would think that Zelensky would have told this guy and said, you've got to call it off. Even if Ukraine had nothing to do with the drone thing, the Russians are playing games with it. The Americans are worried because the Americans, all we do is worry with Biden and stuff. And I'm going to say that I would say because of what happened last week and the Russians trying to pretend it's Ukraine, if the Ukrainians actually do land a bunch of drones in Red Square like today for this contest, it would make it look like it was the Ukrainians who did it last week too. Because if Ukrainians did it today, they could have done it 5 days ago, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if somebody called it off. It's possible nobody accomplished it, but again, I wouldn't be surprised if they've got the names of the companies I think that applied. They could have reached out to all of them and said, you know what, don't do it. I think that would have made sense, but there's no news on it though. I assume, Roshin, you're talking about Eurovision and not the drone finals. Roshin's putting up the 10 finalists, she said. Again, I'm assuming that's Eurovision. Is it Eurovision? Thank you, pediatric nurse. All right, what else we got here? Sorry. Didn't see it. Video of a big Ukrainian ammunition depot going up. Never saw it. Don't know. It's possible. I mean, look, the Russians are going to hit Ukrainian stuff too. Eurovision. Okay. The Russians are going to hit Ukrainian stuff too. So it's, possible. I didn't see it though. And we'll talk, you know what? We can go to the Discord and talk about the Trump stuff in a few minutes. Let's do that because somebody's asking about the Trump stuff. Who was it? I'm trying to pull up your name. Oh, Kelly. Kelly was asking about the Trump trial and stuff today. We can go to Discord and do that because I try to keep this to be Ukraine and not get into sort of the politics, the American political stuff. But we'll go to Discord. It's discord.aravosis.com. The Discord's free, But I do appreciate if you guys, especially anybody who's been on the Discord for a while, if you can afford it and you'd consider paying and doing a monthly donation, I would appreciate it. Otherwise, my Patreon is still up. I'm just afraid Patreon's going to pull the plug eventually, but the Patreon is still up. Patreon now can only support my journalism work because Patreon got very anal about that. So it's no longer connected to the Discord or anything else. It's to support my journalism overall. And if you want to support my journalism overall, you could always go to Patreon. It's patreon.com/Aravosis. So feel free to do that as well. Did you hear about the Ukrainian counterattack today in Bakhmut? It regained 3.2 kilometers of land. That would be 2.2 miles, something 2.5 miles of land southwest of Ivanivsk. Oh boy, that's hard to say. Russian regulars got whooped. Oh, did not hear. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's funny if that's true. I did not hear about that. Kelly, thank you. Kelly just donated for the truck. Thank you, Kelly. Remember, guys, and for you guys, I forgot. For you guys, I can put up the banner thing. That's Vlad's PayPal. I always forgot. People ask about that. I mean, for you guys over there, you can find Vlad's PayPal for donating to the truck in my profile. Click the link, the Linktree link, and it'll take you to Linktree. And you'll see the very top thing gives you the PayPal address for Vlad, and then you just go to your PayPal and enter it. Interesting. Can you put in perspective the troops Ukraine has available for the counteroffensive? Is this larger than they had for Kharkiv routing? I don't know how many they had for Kharkiv. I do know that for this, the Ukrainians, was it like was the number 8 brigades, I think? The numbers I was seeing was there were a new number of brigades, newly trained and everything else, that I think came to 45,000 men and women, was these new brigades, but I don't know what the other manpower is. Somebody's already saying here, I just saw on TikTok, thank you, Stephen, for the origami there. Dark Chef is saying they're also getting better tanks. So we know they've got the tank. Well, they didn't even have tanks before. Right. So we know, they were just starting to get tanks in the last couple months. So we know now they've got, last we heard was 240. And then I think the latest number I saw might've been 310. So they might have 300 plus tanks, which is actually a good number. I read the other day that actually they're looking at spreading them around. Oh, that's interesting. Chris is saying it's not about the brigades. It's about what they are and the equipment. We do know that, as I said, they've got a lot of new equipment. They've got the tanks. They've got infantry fighting vehicles, personnel carriers, stuff like that. They've got the Bradley fighting vehicles, the U.S. Bradleys that were sent, and those are a really big deal. As I said, the tanks, lots of tanks from everybody. Those are a big deal. There's also been the combined arms training that the Ukrainian military has been going through, and that's going to be an issue. We don't know. We don't know. I don't see the name, but I see somebody on TikTok. Thank you for actually, I will look so I can thank you. Hold on. If it's going to let me launch it. Just because I like to thank people as they do this. Somebody just give it. Oh, sorry. I've got my 2-factor on, so I can't pull up TikTok. Anyway, thank you for the gift on TikTok. The $25. That was very nice of you. Thank you. The combined arms training, which is basically teaching the Ukrainians how to fight in a coordinated way, meaning, okay, now you got tanks, you got armored personnel carriers, you got infantry fighting vehicles, you've got drones, you've got planes, you've got helicopters, you've got infantry, guys on the ground and women, Stinger missiles. Like, how do you put all of that together in a way where they're mutually supporting each other? Artillery, because everything's got to support everybody. You've got to, and I'm not the expert on this, but you've got to not just have them help each other, but there's a graduated way you would do this moving forward. You might have the artillery shoot first, and then these guys come in, and then these guys help them, and these guys are providing cover for them. All of that's going to matter too, and we just don't know how well the Ukrainians learned, but from everything else, they seem to have learned a lot. Yeah, Chris is saying Ukraine's learning to fight Western style compared to the Soviet style. Correct. And the Russia's got the Soviet style, which is just like manpower. Boom, right? Just run you over. So we'll see. Yeah, don't know. Oh, that's interesting. Chris is saying on Twitch that Washington Post had a story today about Turkish citizens mad about their homes being destroyed in the quake and will not vote for corrupt Erdogan. What I was seeing was the latest polls has the elections in, I guess maybe they're letting them vote early. I don't even know what, but the elections are certainly this Sunday. Maybe they're just on Sunday. The elections are this Sunday in Turkey for the new president. If nobody gets over 50%, there's a runoff. And the thinking is the election's very close. The opposition guy's a little bit ahead of Erdogan in the polls, but the thinking is that neither of them will get 50%, so there'll be a runoff anyway. So there. But yes, I think it would be very nice if we lost Erdogan. Very, very, very nice. All right. A little bit more here, and then we'll go to the Discord. Hang on, guys. What are we doing here? TikTok. TikTok. There you are. I moved stuff on my iPhone screen around. You can never find stuff after you've moved stuff around. Something moved, and now I'm like, bah. Prigozhin pulling out at midnight? We don't know. We hope so. Sorry, let's see if we have anything else here. Q&A. One moment. It's the road and rail links that go through Bakhmut that make it important. Okay. I think it could be. The Ukrainian stats show a lot of Russian material being destroyed lately. Do you think it's the beginning of the counteroffensive or only opportunities? I mean, tomato to some degree. Anything that helps the war moving forward is useful, right? So if it doesn't really matter, but I will say this, I think a lot of people have noticed that over the last week, there was an uptick in Ukrainian activity. And the fact that the Ukrainians are going after, they went like 3 different times after oil supplies, right? They went after 2 or 3 different times at rail, like trains across, and these were both in Russia, actually, So there is suspicion, put it that way, that the counteroffensive is coming, that these attacks were shaping exercises, as they say in the military, in order to soften up the Russians in preparation for the invasion, for the counter invasion or the counterattack. So, I mean, to some degree too, though, I do wonder, sorry, my back is itching. I do wonder if Ukraine may surprise the Russians by holding on a lot. I mean, they may wait a month or two at this point. Everyone's been saying that one of the big disadvantages the Ukrainians have is that everyone knows what's coming, right? The Russians know that the big counteroffensive is coming. Unlike Kharkiv in the northeast, the Ukrainians surprised everybody. The Ukrainians tricked the Russians into thinking that they were going to be going to Zaporizhia last fall, and instead the Ukrainians were fighting up here, and it screwed the Russians up. The Russians moved a bunch of their troops and weapons, their tanks down here, and then the Ukrainians were up here. This time, everybody knows the Ukrainians are going to go after this, probably Crimea later, but this. And I say everybody knows, which means maybe the Ukrainians will surprise us. Everybody knows, quote unquote, that Ukraine is going to want to go after probably Zaporizhia first, maybe even Kherson, but probably not this in the east. Probably this first, maybe this, maybe some bombing here. So they've got to figure out a way. And the Russians, of course, are digging in like crazy here, assuming the Ukrainians, and digging in like crazy here, north of Crimea. So the Ukrainians have got to figure out a way to mix things up a little bit to surprise the Russians. One of the ways maybe you do that is really dragging this out and just, wait till if they're waiting for more tanks, get the tanks. If the Brits are talking about, for example, if the Brits are talking about giving long-range missiles, if I were Ukraine, I would have, and I'm sure he did, get on the phone with the British Prime Minister and say, okay, are you serious or not? Now, mind you, the Ukrainians could have been told this a week ago. The Ukrainians may already know. They probably do already know if they are or are not getting these long-range missiles from the Brits. But if they are, they could very well say, you know what, if we can get those missiles in 2 months, get some training, etc., or even 3 months, maybe it's worth waiting. Maybe it's worth waiting until August or something. Thank you, Michael, for our counteroffensive. So let's see. And that's how you also screw the Russians up a little, because the Russians think it's happening like in the next couple of weeks. Yeah. No, Peter's saying drag it out and see where the Russians place their units. Yeah. And just keep going after the Russian supplies, like the fly going after, or the mosquito going after the elephant, and just keep blowing up and blowing. But especially if they can get those long-range missiles. And again, I would leave it to the defense experts. I always say I'm a foreign policy guy, not a defense guy, but it sure seems to me if you've got some killer weapon coming that now was not on the table before, you might want to wait till you get that weapon before you launch your attack, because it's going to help you a lot to basically blow up the Russian supplies before the attack. So, landing party in Crimea from Odessa by sea would be a surprise. It would be, but supposedly the Russians, which I'm sure is true, the Russians have put lots of defenses along the beaches here just in case the Ukrainians were going to come down here or anywhere around here and attack over here. I don't know about here in Kherson, but this could be, beach landings, as we know, Normandy and everything else. Beach landings are not easy, but I do know the Russians for a while now have been building up their beaches. So, all right, I think I'm going to do my summary and move on, guys, because I really want to go over to Discord and we can talk a little bit about Trump before we're done for the day. But as I said, I don't want to talk about it here. It's already a little after, about 5 after. Let me just look really quick to see. Ukraine needs baked ground for frozen ground for rapid movement. They're adopting Western tactics. Yep. Be prolonged. Susan, you crack me up. I'm not military. Thank you for the glasses there. I did see that, Chase. I'm not military, but have learned so much through your chats. Thank you. I have several relatives served, but don't want to talk about the wars they were in. That's okay. I appreciate that. Thank you, Susan, as always. And thank you, Susan. I mean, you've been so generous. I really appreciate it. Someday you're going to tell me how to actually pronounce your last name. So is it Krauthamel, or Krauthamel? Krauthamel? I'm working on it. You're American, I'm guessing, since you're in the States, and we pronounce things God knows how. But I'm just curious. Krauthamel. All right. Anyway, thank you for that. All right, let me do the quick summary of the news, and then Yep. Oh yeah, are you kidding, Joanna? There's no way I'd pay for Twitter Blue. He's a lunatic. He's an absolute lunatic. Thank you, Chase. I appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate that. Chase said he's moving over from Patreon to Discord. I just don't trust them. I mean, the problem is Patreon is really easy to sign up for, and that's the thing. I like that it's easier for folks to sign up. Discord is not easy. I mean, once you get used to it, it's a lot of fun, but that initial sign up is hard, and we'll help you guys. And then signing up for the money aspect is another angle, to give a contribution each month. But Patreon just cracked down on the Ukrainian creators, and I don't trust it. They sent me a nasty little email. I mean, it was a very polite, nasty email, but telling me to basically disconnect my Discord from Patreon because they don't want to fund wars and this kind of crap. And go screw yourselves. I've been on Patreon for like 5 years now, 5 or 6 years now, 5 years, I think. And, if they can't figure out that this war is a little different, I mean, I think they're kind of pulling they're a bunch of San Francisco liberals. I mean, and I say this as somebody who's often on the left, but they're a bunch of San Francisco liberals and they don't like war. Because I've seen people that are this way. They refuse to help the Ukrainians at all because they don't like war. And it's like, really? Well, guess what? I don't like genocide. So, or people who enable genocide. No, I think they're really on the wrong. Somebody's funding them, or I wrote them a note because they asked me for a review or whatever. And I wrote them a note and said, I don't know if you got a board member or somebody running your company or a donor or somebody who's tied in with the Russians or whatever, or is just such a flaming liberal that they're literally, like the Glenn Greenwald types and all these lunatics where they're so anti-Ukraine and pro-Putin because they're so on the left, but something weird going on at Patreon. And the Ukrainian creators had been warning me for months, and I kept going, what are you talking about? And then they came after me. It's like, it's just, any case. So that's my problem with Patreon. I just don't trust them. I don't trust them anymore. I mean, they're gonna, any case. So yeah, if you can help on Discord or just PayPal and that stuff. The problem with PayPal, of course, it's not reoccurring, but if you can, PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, I still appreciate it. So thank you guys. All right, quick recap. Day 439 of Putin's 10-day special military operation. We are doing our truck fundraiser. I'll tell you about it at the end. Brits are preparing to give long-range missiles to Ukraine, allegedly, which would be a big deal. Victory Day in Russia was a bust. Only 50 vehicles showed up. They didn't have the planes flying over. They didn't hold the placards of the dead. It was, and of course, no big foreign heads of state other than a couple of the former Soviet republics who were sucking up to Putin. Igor Girkin, former Russian commander, FSB officer, war criminal, says that Russia's defeat is imminent in the war, and he told his 800,000 followers on Telegram, which is great. Prigozhin, very unhappy. Now he says that they were lied to. The Russian Ministry of Defense is not giving him the ammunition that he was promised, and he's once again threatening to pull out of Bakhmut, which is great. Russia's preparing to evacuate more than 3,000 staff members from the Zaporizhia nuclear plant, they say. A video journalist working for Agence France Presse, Armand Soldin, was killed in Ukraine today by rocket fire. Sign of, I forgot to mention this one. Listen to this. A sign that the sanctions are working. Sky News reports that Russians are reportedly taking computer chips out of washing machines to use in their weapons because they can't get Western computer chips any other way. From what I hear, washing machines do have computer chips, just not very advanced ones because it's a washing machine. Not to mention a Russian washing machine, which God only knows what that does. With all of the nuclear saber rattling, the U.S. sees no change in Russia's nuclear posture. And Secretary of State Blinken said that we have given Ukraine all the weapons they need to continue to be successful in regaining territory they've lost in the last 14 months. But he didn't mention anything about Crimea. So I pointed it out. All right, guys. Woo! All right. Thank you, everybody. So thank you for your gifts tonight. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for the moderators. I will see you tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern. And why don't we head over to Discord right now? And we do have the best mods on we have the best folks on TikTok, even better. Thank you, Cheryl. And thank you for the gifts again. I appreciate that. We will go to Discord and we will be discussing the Trump verdict with him being found, not guilty, but him being found liable for sexual abuse to Jean Carroll, is I believe her name. But to the tune of $5 million, which is a lot. That's a lot of lying. So that was good. Very surprising, actually, considering how many years ago it was. That was very interesting. And it was a very quick verdict, which means the jury was not thrilled with him. But anyway, if you want to talk about that, we can go to the Discord for a little bit, and then I'm going to get dinner. And maybe go to Costco later. We'll see. All right, guys. Thank you so much. All right. Have a good night. Discord.aravosis.com. We'll go over there. All right. Thank you.